Hello, my name is Amy Lightfoot and I'm speaking here from the 11th Language and Development Conference in Delhi. And I'm delighted to have with me Baela Jamil, who's joining us as a speaker from Pakistan. Baela, would you like to just tell us a little bit about the work that you do in Pakistan?
Thank you, Amy. Currently, I'm an advisor and trustee with Idara-e-Taleem-o-Aagahi, which is a civil society organization focusing on many fronts of education, including language and assessments. We do the ASER Survey in Pakistan as well, which is a large-scale nationwide learning assessment for 5 to 16-year-olds in public and private schools, as well as rural and all of rural areas and some urban areas as well. We are also doing the Children's Literature Festivals and work across the entire system in service delivery from early childhood all the way to tertiary education. So it's a very large span of work that we are involved in.
Yeah, sounds very interesting. And also just to be clear, the ASA survey in Pakistan, it differs a little bit from the ASA survey that takes place here in India, that some of our viewers might be familiar with. And is that it differs because it also looks at urban schools? Is that correct?
It looks at both public and private. Although ASER in Pakistan is all inspired by ASER India, so the pioneering work is very much based here. But what we've done is, because the debate is so much on public and private, we from day one worked also on private schools as well as urban. So each year we expand our urban space whilst we do rural completely, as does ASER India here. But we also do progressively more, covering more urban areas.
Okay, lovely. So I just wanted to ask you a couple of questions about the presentation that you did yesterday.
Yes.
So yesterday, on the first day of the conference, Baela did a presentation on the low-cost English medium private sector schools in Pakistan and some research that she and her colleagues have been doing in that sector. One of the themes that came out of that was some questions from the audience around the use of English medium instruction as a kind of label for the schools, as opposed to actually describing what takes place on a transactional level within the schools. And I wondered if you could comment a little bit on your findings in that area.
Yes, I mean, what's happened is, since the 90s, Pakistan has had an interesting story, although we have parallels in South Asia for that. We went through a period of nationalization, and therefore the only option left was public sector. Subsequently, the demand from the public, which almost is a political demand as well, to have other options, and particularly private sector, since the public sector was not fulfilling the needs of the citizens, the government became far more relaxed on allowing private sector to emerge. But around that was also the whole transaction, not just of schooling, but also of language. And that meant that the type of schools that were in demand were those that were offering English medium, because the government was going backwards and forwards on, and still is, on policy on language, whether it be in Urdu medium or mother tongue or English medium. So the English medium has been a huge demand, and the private sector has responded to that big demand by through a mushrooming factor of private schools. It's almost quite impossible to keep track on how fast these schools are growing. But of course, the easiest thing for schools to do, whether in rural areas or urban areas, to put the English medium label there. And it is a label because when you go inside those schools to observe what's happening in the classrooms, it's anything but English medium. But there is a feeling of satisfaction by parents, as we shared in the survey, that even in the poorest quintiles, you have almost 75% of children from that poorest quintile going to a low-cost private school, which could be anywhere from 50 rupees, 20 rupees, all the way to 250 rupees, which is the lowest of the fee bands. So when the parents are so desperate, they are maybe not even first generation literate themselves, They're only hearing that this school where my child is going in is an English medium school.
Yeah.
Now that is the level of parental satisfaction. They are not able to go in to see whether in fact that is being delivered or not. And the school managers know that nobody is actually going to come and ask. So what then happens is that sadly, then that is all, they need just a smattering of the language. And whereas everything else is taking place in perhaps Punjabi or any other local language, Urdu, English perhaps just comes even as a third language anyway.
Yeah.
So that's really what it is. And parents are now, another work that we do, for example, is school assessment for school improvement. And there the task is precisely this, to allow parents to understand what is happening inside the schools.
Right.
And to make their choices through an informed process.
Right, yeah.
So those are things that are happening. Meanwhile, our research interests keep us going from year to year, and this particular research that we presented yesterday was taking from the ASER data that we collect anyway each year. That's such a rich source of information since we reach out to almost 300,000 children to almost about 90,000 plus households across the country. Yeah. So it's large scale. There's a real desire for many of our researchers to look at research themes which are topical, and obviously that evidence informs policy as well.
Yeah, very interesting. I mean, it's almost as if the label of EMI has become a sort of synonym for private school, and it's as if there's a, whereas it might have been in the past that there was a prestigiousness to going to a private school. Now it's all related to English medium, perhaps.
Yes, and you know, there's an insinuation of quality, and I say insinuation because, you know, perhaps quality is very difficult to find. Now, however, when you're looking at and juxtaposing it against the public sector schools, you may see, and as we have seen, a tad bit of difference between the low quality in public sector schools versus some improvement in so-called English medium private sector schools, because of the teacher's presence, because of management playing a far more serious oversight role than the public sector management does. So because of that, you may see some improvements compared to public sector. So parents still feel that they are getting a good end of their bargain. And even though as serious educators we feel, oh my God, this is only a label. You know.
And so that brings me nicely to the next question that I had for you, which is around the quality of these schools. You've mentioned that there is a perception that a lot of them are low quality as well as being low cost. Although you've been doing some work around assessment of schools to hold them accountable to what's actually taking place and the learning that's happening. But I'm also wondering whether in Pakistan, like for example in India with the Right to Education Act, there are multiple standards that have been put in place for all schools, which the private schools are also held accountable to. They tend to focus on infrastructure and things that can be easily quantified rather than the actual quality of teaching or learning that's taking place. And there are also associations of low-cost private schools that are trying very hard to put those quality standards into place and to get schools to sign up to show that they're accredited by these associations and that they have met the standards that they've set down. Is that something that's happening in Pakistan as well?
Very much so. As I said, that we do several things, including this assessment for improvement. The issues are very similar. We also have the Right to Education Act in Pakistan. It's now part of the fundamental rights of the citizens of Pakistan because it's part of the Constitution of Pakistan from 2010. This is Article 25A, ensuring that state provides free and high quality education to all children 5 to 16 years of age. Sadly, unlike India, we haven't still got the rules made, so the implementation is slow. However, the rules are being made, but the concern for people is that even in these schools, is there any quality that is happening? How do people know that quality, that this is quality when they see it? What are the dimensions of quality? Is it only restricted to infrastructure? And so on and so forth. So the efforts that are underway are on the one hand looking at 6-7 different dimensions of what would be seen as quality and sustainability of a private school, but also to look at, okay, what happens when there is no quality. So recently in Pakistan, in February 2014, and I think just last week, the Pakistan Alliance for Independent Schools was launched.
Okay.
And it's an association, it's an alliance of about 35 associations across the country who've come together to address these similar issues by particularly low-cost schools,
right,
who are on their own are struggling, but as an association they feel they can get some support for things like leadership, English medium teaching, second language, or even mother tongue language instruction, as well as looking at things like how do they go and source the materials for a school lab or a school library. So they feel that there is some merit in becoming part of an alliance where quality solutions would be provided.
And support.
And support. And institutions like ours are also creating what are seen as marketplaces for learning solutions and also financial inclusion. So that is certainly helping these schools, because what, for example, we do is giving them profiles of the schools through an assessment form, and those assessment forms are of 3 or 4 different kinds, including a summary on their financials, a summary on their quality,
right,
and then they take these audits sheets literally to solution providers to negotiate how they can transact quality for their schools. And if they can have those labels put outside that our school has been audited by such and such, has been supported by such and such, they feel that the parents would know that, oh, these are the trademarks of a quality school. So the conversations have begun there. Similarly, so both countries across borders, we see similar trends, and I wish there would be more conversations in the region on this. Perhaps British Council can think in terms of also providing such marketplaces for many solution providers at different price points, because these schools, clearly cannot afford very high-end solutions.
Right.
But and particularly now, in what you've shown so marvelously in this conference, is the whole area of the digital communication bit, the digital professional development options, whether for language or for other ways of expressing identity, and also other solutions. I think we are, on a very interesting phase of our development of quality and education across the world, but certainly in the region, which is very vibrant. And I think that needs to be truly harnessed, because this is the burning issue of the century.
And it's not going anywhere.
It's not going anywhere, and sadly we do not see public sector responding that quickly. Whilst public sector is there to see implementation, say, of the right to education, is quick to see whether the, in fact, right to education laws and criteria and standards are being followed or not, or to penalize them, but they're not offering as quickly solutions to overcome those hurdles.
Very interesting. Thank you so much, Baela. And if you're interested in watching Baela's talk, she co-presented with Saba, is it Saba Saeed?
Saba Saeed, who's a researcher.
Yeah, and also works in the same organisation as Baela. And their session has been recorded and will be available shortly on this YouTube channel. So we'll put details of that below for you to link through. We'll also put the details of the website of your organisation and where you can find more information about the annual survey.
Status of Education Report.
That's
it's actually, it's simple, it's www.aserpakistan.org.
There you go. We'll put it down below as well. And Baela, you're also taking part in the debate this afternoon.
Yes.
Yep. And the motion for that debate is that English medium instruction does not bring the benefits that people expect. So quite a controversial one.
Absolutely.
Are you arguing for or against, Baela? I can't remember. You're arguing for the motion. Okay, so that will also be both live webcast and recorded. So you'll be able to see a link again to that on this page. So thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much, Baela, for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.